I've been using the Asetek Forte and the Clubsport DD Plus side to side and back to back for a while, and today we're going to have my conclusions about it. Both wheelbases were sent by the respective companies, and I also have affiliate links with both companies. I'm going to say something that will be controversial. In my opinion, the Clubsport DD Plus has better force feedback than the Asetek Forte. But before you go to the comments to complain about what I said, the force feedback shouldn't be the reason you should buy one over the other. This is one of those cases where you should choose one over the other based on usability to you. This video will be more of a conclusion or overview video. If you want to see more in-depth reviews, the links will be below. Let's start with the feature set. The Clubsport DD is the new entry for Fanatec. It's their most advanced direct drive as of this moment. I think they've done an incredible job. Before starting all of this, I'm going to say something about Fanatec that is worthwhile mentioning. This new Clubsport DD family comes with something called full force, but in reality, it is irrelevant if it comes with full force or not. It's basically haptics. There isn't an API available in any game as of this moment. It should come out in Gran Turismo 7, Assetto Corsa and iRacing, or Assetto Corsa Competizione and iRacing, but because it isn't available at the moment, it is completely irrelevant for this discussion. Secondly, Fanatec also has warehouse issues, or at least they are mostly resolved as of this moment, but because of the mess they are currently on, it came so bad that the CEO was fired from its position. There's another CEO replacing it that should fix issues. Generally, on the warehouse side, it is mostly resolved. The big issue for you will be the situation if you have some sort of RMA or you need to contact customer support. Customer support, it's going to be incredibly difficult to contact. Going towards the Clubsport DD, there's two versions of Clubsport DD. The Clubsport DD is 12 Newton meters and costs $7.99, and then there's the one that I have, the Clubsport DD Plus, which is $9.99 and is 15 Newton meters and is PC, Xbox, and PlayStation compatible. The Clubsport DD, it is PC and Xbox compatible. There's also a version of the Clubsport DD Plus that comes with this GT DD Extreme wheel. It is actually quite interesting wheel. You should check the review below. There's a part all about this wheel, but of course you should make your decision based on it, because even though the usability it is very good, the quality could be better. It is a wheel that is usable, but it's not something that, you know, you should spend extra $300 just to get this. The package will be $12.99. It might be useful for those of you who are using Gran Turismo, or you just really want one wheel that is round and can serve multiple functions. Other than that, it is for me extremely passable. As for the Forte, it is part of the Asetek Sim Sports family that, in my opinion, even though it is only, 1 year or 1.5 years old, it is already incredibly mature. It is a very good product. There are 3 versions of it. One is the La Prima, 12 Newton meters at around 800 euros. Then the Asetek Forte, the one that I have for review, it is 1120 euros, 18 Newton meters, and then the Invicta will be 600 euros for 27 Newton meters. That's basically the big dog. There is something that needs to be mentioned, which will be something called slew rate, or how fast the wheelbase will go to max torque. And that's basically the new jargon, the new battlefield between companies. In terms of slew rate, the Clubsport DD series has basically the same slew rate, I am told, which will be 6.7 Newton meters by microsecond, while in the Asetek side, the La Prima has 4.7, 6.7, and 9.4 respectively. What does it mean for you that are driving? Well, in practice, really not that much. There might be a little bit difference between the La Prima and the Invicta and all of that, but you really won't feel it once you're driving it, because they are so incredibly responsive. That is basically not where the decision should come from. So from the Clubsport DD to the Forte, they're essentially the same, and in reality they feel most the same, even though for some reason the Clubsport DD feels slightly faster. Let's talk about usability and features, which is something really important and basically make or break for a lot of people trying to get into a system over the other. In the case of Fanatec, they have been around for so long that mounting it isn't really an issue. To mount the Clubsport DD, basically just half threads, some T-nuts they provide, and just slide it in. It is incredibly easy to do. And Fanatec has a huge ecosystem with wheels and pedals and shifters. So especially if you want to use all of that in consoles, you can do that as well. And that might be something on their feature set and ecosystem that will be useful for you. You can get your wheels to run on the Fanatec system, but you need to get their adapters, and their adapters aren't exactly cheap to run them. The quick release is fantastic, is one of the sturdiest out there, if not the sturdiest. It's based out of a Chromtech quick release, which is something they use in real cars. In reality, you can't really get better than this, but truth be told, it gets past to a point where being more sturdy, it doesn't really matter, because the Mozza quick release, the VRS quick release, and also the Asetek quick release will do everything as well and will be as sturdy realistically. As for the Forte, they're relatively new. That means that sim rig makers and wheel stand makers don't have a mounting solution most of the times for it. It is an incredibly frustrating wheel to mount. There's basically a couple of ways to do it. You can buy front mount from them, and the front mount will cost you over 100 euros, so it adds 100 euros over the price. You can also bottom mount them. There's a system very similar to the ones available in Fanatec, though the mounting solution doesn't have the same mounting pattern. That means it is slightly wider, which means you need to drill some holes. If you have a sim rig that uses an extruded aluminum for a mounting solution, you may be able to connect some of these. Physically, it is an incredibly tiny wheelbase, not very tall at all. And also at the back, there's something really cool, which will be a USB-C hub. Everything is USB, so you might need to change some cables. It does the pass-through and does connect to your PC with no problem whatsoever. An ecosystems of wheels and also pedals. They are adding stuff more and more and more. Their quick release is incredibly good, very simple to use. And as for wheels, I find the Asetek Forte wheel, even though it looks like, let's be honest, it looks like crap. It is incredibly well built, and it's one of the most usable wheels in the market because you get so many buttons, very easily reachable. Their quick release system, it is not just very good in terms of stability, it is incredibly practical because the wheel system is open. If you want to use your own stuff, you can use it. And their quick release comes with a small USB dongle that you can connect your wheelbase without going to a hub or to the PC. Everything goes pass through, and it will be incredibly tidy on your system without so many cables. The next point needs to be drivers, firmware, and all of that. For the Fanatec system, you can change your setup, you can change your setting of your wheelbases from the wheel. Every single wheel will have a small OLED screen that you can change how much force feedback you want, if you want any damping and all of that. Asetek doesn't have any of that as of this moment. But for the software, it is strange right now for Fanatec. They have basically two softwares. They have their regular Fanatec driver system or driver suite, where you can do most of the stuff, add profiles, change your force feedback, do calibrations and all of that. And they have something called Fanalabs, where you can have the profiles change dynamically between games, and I think even between cars. You can change the lights of certain wheels, like the Rally Podium wheelbase or the BMW GT3 wheel. I need to mention something about Fanatec's driver package as of this moment. While I'm writing this, or while I'm doing the video, driver package 456 is terrible. Don't use it at all. I've had lots of cuts on the Fanatec Clubsport DD Plus while driving. You should use driver package 455, but even that for the Clubsport DD, this wheel isn't really running correctly. Sometimes it just hangs. You can use the features, but the OLED just goes haywire. And for the Podium Rally module that they have for the Clubsport DD, it starts exhibiting really weird numbers, so that isn't fixed at all. As of this moment, the firmware package isn't working correctly as it should for the Fanatec. Which is interesting because Asetek just released their Race Hub 3.0, and Race Hub 3.0 is one of the most mature software solutions that I've ever seen. You can basically do everything with it. You can change colors, you can change the way that the settings work for your telemetry and all of that. It is an incredibly intuitive, easy to use easy to use software package. You can do the firmware updates through that. It's one of those situations where you look at the driver or you look at the software they provide and you just say, this is a perfect solution. And if you told me, oh, they have been doing this for 10 years, that's the reason why it's so good, I would believe you, but I know better than that. I've seen the software since version 1.0 when I was using the Asetek Forte pedals. In terms of wheelbase setups between one and the other, they're incredibly similar, except the Asetek goes a little bit better because you can actually adjust slew rates. That means without adding any dampening into the wheelbase itself, you can just, if you find that the wheel is responding way too harshly, way too fast, you can reduce the slew rate of the wheelbase, something that can be important. Let's talk about the driving. It's probably the reason why you're here. If we were doing a blind test and you told me I was running a wheelbase, I would believe you because they're incredibly close, except like I said in Asetek Forte Competizione, where you can notice some difference between one and the other, especially in the way they respond. I mean, I can't give any more praise between all of these wheelbases. They are just perfect drivers. What I found between them, especially in Asetek Forte and iRacing, is that they are very, very good, incredibly responsive. They'll give you all of the information, all of force feedback. The rumbles are incredibly crisp. You can feel the details, you can feel the undulations, and you understand intuitively what everything is doing. And because these wheels are so fast to respond, if there's a variation in the wheelbase that you understand that might create a situation where, for example, you're going to have some liftoff or oversteer, you can intuitively correct it in the same way, one over the other. And the signal they provide, it is so similar. You can find differences in Mazda, you can find differences in Camus or even Logitech. On these two, I mean, they are, I can't distinguish in between them in Asetek Forte and in iRacing. However, in Asetek Forte Competizione, I've been running a lot of Nordschleife, and Nordschleife is a perfect place to test all of these wheelbases because it has a lot of undulations, it has a lot of camber changes, it can be very violent, hitting, for example, the carousel. And this is where I find that the Clubsport DD Plus is a little bit better. Not because it is smoother, and something about the smoothness of it in the Clubsport DD, it is not exactly smooth when you are on idle. You can feel, the pulls a little bit, and the Asetek, you'll also feel it a little bit, but not as sharp. Everything, when it's running, it is incredibly smooth. It will be exactly the same. What I mean about this is that the Clubsport DD is able to give more difference between areas of the track in Asetek Forte Competizione compared to the Asetek Forte. Kind of feels like that the force feedback in the Clubsport DD Plus, it has a more dynamic range in this title, and Asetek Forte Competizione is an incredibly frustrating title to review force feedback because everything is dampened a lot and a lot of the experience just gets lost and muddled, and that's why I remove every single dampening spring effect. And because of it, I find that the driving is a little more enticing for me on a Clubsport DD because everywhere else, they're essentially the same wheelbase. One last thing about the force feedback, because of the slew rate and the torque differences, I haven't found much difference in torque between one and the other. Essentially, they feel exactly the same in max torque. Maybe the Asetek feels a little bit stronger when you crank it up. One thing that is worth noticing between the torque differences between both is that Asetek says that their peak torque and holding torque, it's the peak torque 18 meters is just for 40 seconds, while Fanatec says you can run it until the ends of the earth. Maybe that will have an impact at edge cases, and probably that is the reason why they feel very similar when they're max power. What we have here is a couple of outstanding wheelbase systems with very close force feedback, and if you just choose the force feedback, it's just basically throw a coin in the air. But of course, this is not the way you should choose one over the other. But I want to talk about something that I've been finding fascinating when dealing with the Clubsport DD Plus, and basically it is the reaction to it. Fanatec hasn't been having the best of times. I think there's a lot of valid criticisms against what Fanatec has been doing in terms of what they've been dealing with since 2020, lack of stock, QR2 being ready for years, never been released to the public until last year. then warehouse issues, delivery issues, and of course, customer service issues that have been a problem since a long time ago, and now I think it's their biggest problem as of this moment. All of these criticisms are valid, and they'll be still valid, and especially with customer support, it should be something that when you decide one over the other, Fanatec Custom Support should be on the back of your head. If I buy this, will I deal with it? Is it a risk I want to take? I have been in a crossways in sim racing for a few months. I haven't released a review video in months since the Clubsport DD. I've seen that the reaction in sim racing, the commentary and the generally environment in comments in videos and subreddits, it has been incredibly aggressive. And lately it has been very difficult to me to justify, the time and efforts of doing a video just to receive a bunch of mean comments and all of that. A lot of them will actually miss the point of what I'm saying and will be saying. It is one thing to say this company is doing bad things at the moment. The product might be good, but I'm not buying it because I don't feel comfortable because of situations X, Y, and Z. I think this is all valid and applies to the Clubsport DD. It is completely valid saying, it's a good wheelbase, not going to buy it because I don't want to deal with the customer support. But I find it another thing altogether to say the company is bad. Therefore, the product is bad, and everybody that covers this product is a shill. And it's something that is kind of pissing me off lately, and it kind of creates a situation where the customer isn't informed about the product. It isn't informed about the situation that the company that makes this product is, and essentially paints everybody that tries to figure out what the product is, paints under it a brush of, you are a shill, there's a shill gambit over there, you're being paid. It's very difficult to do a review like this or to justify your time when, the reactions generally will be like this. So that leads me to the next point. I believe the Clubsport DD Plus has better force feedback than the Asetek, and for a lot of people, it'll likely be the best choice because it has an branded ecosystem that will be having choices for you, and you can run Gran Turismo in it if you want to. It doesn't mean that it will be the case for everybody. It means that it will likely be the case for most people. There are a lot of situations where the Asetek is not just a better choice, it is a much better choice. First of all, their driver pack is incredibly superior to Fanatec. It's not even funny. You have the quick release, which I think it's the best quick release for sim racing. It is so practical. This system is very open. Fanatec with running with that closed system that you need a podium adapter plus a quick release, for me it's just stupid. It just shoots themselves in the foot. And I think in terms of the product itself, the product, in my opinion, feels that it has more quality. The wheelbase feels more premium. If I were in the PC alone, likely Asetek would be my choice because of how abranged it is. So it is not just about having the best force feedback, because the force feedback between both wheelbases are so close. It cannot be the deciding factor. It needs to be the feature base, and the feature base, they have a good crossover, but it is on a good chunk of its usability that you should make the decision. In my opinion, if you play, multiple consoles, play multiple games, go for the Fanatec. If you are centering yourself on something that needs to be open and you're staying on the PC, the Asetek is a much better decision. These are my thoughts. Leave your comments below. I want to see what you think of this.